Singer David has canceled the rest of his U.S. tour after a girl's body was found in the car of his car at a tow yard.
This comes as police investigate the death of a 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, who was reported missing from Lake Elsinore last year and found dead in David's car.
A community coming together in solemn tribute tonight to remember a life cut short.
Yeah, a vigil was held in Lake Elsinore for Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She is, as Corrine mentioned, the teenager whose decomposed remains were discovered in the trunk of a Tesla and then tied to a popular singer named David.
Before we get into today's video, I want to take a moment to express my condolences to Celeste's family. These past few weeks have been incredibly difficult, and I can only imagine the weight of their loss. My thoughts are with them during this time. If you'd like to support the family, I've included a link to their GoFundMe in the description. With that being said, let's shift gears and get back into today's video.
What doesn't kill you waits for later.
With the recent controversy surrounding David and the disturbing discovery made by authorities, I thought it would be a good time to shed light on similar cases involving other musicians and artists. Throughout history, the music industry has not only produced icons and legends, but it has also harbored figures whose personal lives took dark and unexpected turns. Some used their fame as a shield, others as a weapon, and in each case, their crimes left a permanent mark on both their victims and their art. Today, we'll be taking a closer look at musicians who stepped far outside the boundaries of creativity and into a world of violence, deception, and disturbing truths.
Ian Watkins and two women were jailed for the most horrific crimes against children last December. We have new evidence that, as well as the police, social services were also told of serious allegations about Watkins as long ago as 2008.
Ian Watkins, former lead singer of the Welsh rock band Lostprophets, represents one of the darkest and most disturbing cases in modern music history. Unlike other controversies tied to musicians, Watkins' crimes go far beyond the usual headlines of drugs, violence, or scandals. His actions shocked the world for their sheer depravity. In the early 2000s, Lostprophets were at the height of their fame. They sold millions of records, toured internationally, and built a devoted fan base with hits that seemed destined to cement them as one of the era's most influential alternative bands. But behind the scenes, Watkins was living a double life. One fueled by hard drugs and increasingly disturbing behavior. By 2012, the truth began to unravel. Watkins was arrested and charged with multiple sex offenses including conspiracy to engage in sexual activity with. Investigators uncovered not only his own crimes, but also evidence of him grooming fans and manipulating others into participating in his acts. The case revealed recordings, messages, and disturbing details that confirmed his involvement in some of the most serious offenses imaginable. In 2013, Ian Watkins was sentenced to 29 years in prison, with an additional 6 years of extended supervision. The judge in his case described the crimes as the most severe sexual offenses involving he had ever seen. Watkins later admitted in interviews that he was addicted to hard drugs at the time, but this explanation has done nothing to minimize the horror of his actions. The fallout for Lostprophets was catastrophic. The band immediately disbanded after the trial, with the remaining members expressing deep shock and disgust at Watkins' actions. They later regrouped under a new name, determined to distance themselves from their former frontman. Today, Ian Watkins' name is synonymous with one of the darkest scandals in rock music. His crimes not only destroyed his career, but also permanently tarnished the legacy of a band that, for many, had once defined an era. Watkins serves as a chilling reminder of how fame and influence can hide monstrous behavior until it is too late.
FBI team now. Michael Tyler, better known by his stage name Mystikal, faced an Ascension Parish judge today. He's been locked up since his arrest in 2022 on rape and domestic violence charges.
Michael Lawrence Tyler, better known by his stage name Mystikal, was once one of the defining voices of Southern hip-hop. Coming out of New Orleans in the mid-1990s, his aggressive delivery and unique flow made him stand out on the roster of No Limit Records, where he found mainstream success with hits like Shake Ya Ass and Danger, Been So Long. At one point, Mystikal seemed destined to cement himself as one of rap's most dynamic performers. But behind the fame and chart success, Mystikal's personal life became defined by disturbing crimes that would derail his career and stain his legacy. In 2003, Mystikal was convicted of sexual battery and extortion after he forced his hairstylist to perform sexual acts while being recorded on camera. He and 2 bodyguards were sentenced, and Mystikal served 6 years in prison. After his release in 2010, many assumed he would attempt to rebuild his career, but legal troubles followed him. In 2012, he was arrested again on a misdemeanor charge of domestic abuse. Then, in 2017, Mystikal faced a far more serious accusation, being charged with first-degree battery and kidnapping in connection with an alleged assault in Louisiana. Though he turned himself in and proclaimed his innocence, he spent nearly 2 years in jail before posting bond. In 2022, Mystikal was arrested once again, facing charges of false imprisonment, domestic abuse, and simple robbery. These latest allegations have left little doubt that his legacy will forever be overshadowed by a pattern of violent behavior and sexual violence. Once celebrated for his commanding presence in rap, Mystikal's career today is defined not by his music, but by repeated accusations, convictions, and the lives damaged in his wake.
They are a Grammy-nominated, chart-topping heavy metal band with a Christian twist. As I Lay Dying has sold more than 1 million albums. But this morning, lead singer Tim Lambesis is behind bars, accused of doing something very much against his religion, hiring a hitman to kill his estranged wife.
One of the most infamous cases in modern metal is that of Tim Lambesis, frontman of the Christian metalcore band As I Lay Dying. For years, Lambesis built a reputation as a powerful vocalist and a figure in the metal community, balancing his career with his role as a husband and adoptive father. But behind the scenes, his personal life was unraveling. In 2013, Lambesis shocked both fans and critics when he was arrested for attempting to hire a hitman to murder his estranged wife, Megan Murphy. Court documents revealed that Lambesis had been plotting the crime while simultaneously living a double life, one built on an image of faith and morality, while privately struggling with his own disillusionment, steroid use, and marital issues. The undercover sting operation that led to his arrest exposed just how far he was willing to go. Believing he was speaking with a hitman, Lambesis provided photos of his wife, details about her routine, and even specific instructions on how to carry out the murder. Instead of a hired killer, he was speaking to an undercover officer. He pleaded guilty in 2014 and was sentenced to 6 years in prison, though he was released in 2016 after serving less than 3. His release sparked outrage among some fans and the broader community, who questioned whether he should be allowed to return to music after such a crime. Despite this, Lambesis did reunite with As I Lay Dying in 2018, a move that divided their fan base and raised ongoing debates about forgiveness, accountability, and whether an artist can ever truly separate from their crimes.
Of second-degree murder again. Rapper C. Murder will spend the rest of his life in jail. But will today's controversial verdict be overturned by an appeals court?
Corey Miller, better known by his stage name C. Murder, rose to fame in the late 1990s as part of the New Orleans-based hip-hop collective No Limit Records, founded by his brother, Master P. With hits like Down for My Ends and a reputation for gritty, street-driven lyrics, C. Murder established himself as a prominent figure in Southern rap. But behind the music, his career became defined not by platinum records, but by a murder conviction that still stirs controversy to this day. In 2002, a 16-year-old fan named Steve Thomas attended a nightclub in Harvey, Louisiana. What should have been a night of fun ended in tragedy when Thomas was beaten and shot. Multiple witnesses later testified that C. Murder was the one who pulled the trigger. He was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The trial, however, was anything but straightforward. In 2003, C. Murder was convicted, but the ruling was overturned after a judge determined that prosecutors had improperly withheld information. In 2009, he was retried, found guilty again, and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the case has remained highly controversial. Over the years, several witnesses recanted their testimony, claiming they were pressured by police and prosecutors to identify C. Murder as the shooter. Advocates, including family, fans, and even reality star Kim Kardashian, have since pushed for a retrial, arguing that the evidence used to convict him was unreliable. Despite these efforts, the conviction still stands, and C. Murder continues to maintain his innocence. Even from prison, he has continued to release music, using recorded phone calls and verses smuggled out to create new projects. This persistence has kept his name alive in hip-hop circles, but his legacy remains permanently tied to the tragic killing of a teenage fan and the legal battles that followed.
For the cause, I'm the soldier on the tank with the big balls, and if anybody mess with Snoop Doggy Dogg, I'ma make.
And that concludes today's video. These stories are stark reminders of how talent and success can be overshadowed and ultimately erased by the weight of crime and consequence. For some of these artists, their music may live on, but their legacies will forever be tied to the choices that ended their careers. Thank you for watching and for taking the time to reflect on these difficult but important stories.